These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Yeah, just a shell read there. Saw single high. Tried to work Justin. Didn't feel good about putting it up to Justin. And then when I went to progress, I just felt like I was about to get sacked. And I felt like I got to put the ball in play. And if I take, I can't go down with a sack. So I just thought I'd kick it out to TJ. And I had thrown short of the sticks on a few occasions in the game and even going back a few weeks and just felt like, just throwing it short of the sticks isn't the end of the world. It's just, it's obviously tight coverage. So didn't have the chance to pull away. But I just felt
There he is, Kirk, explaining the 4th and 8 play. I saw Kurt Warner did like a 7-minute breakdown of it. There's been criticism of the play design. There's been criticism, certainly from us, about over on Purple Daily anyways, about Kirk's decision to just sort of shrug his shoulders and throw it to the check down that had no chance of converting. But if you had one mulligan on the season, right? I'd love to see a redo of that play, either with a different design or taking a shot to the whole Justin Jefferson is covered thing. I don't know, man. That Buffalo catch, he's not really ever covered in a 4th and season situation.
Yeah, and in that case, too, if he's bracketed, which he was, Thielen and Osborne have man coverage.
And should you anticipate, they've been bracketing him all day, should you anticipate, they're probably going to roll that way again, meaning maybe I should get to the left side of the field quicker in my progressions? I don't know.
Do you know what I think the simplest thing is here? Like the just most fundamental, basic play design thing here. Or the question, I guess, how do you not get Hockenson to the sticks?
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, that's right. But Hawk had a great day. By the way, great trade, fantastic trade. Hockenson had an unbelievable day. I mean, he was effective. The Giants proved in 2 games they couldn't stop him. And so I guess the question is this, just from a design concept of how do I help Kirk help himself? If Hawkinson's at the sticks and catches that and just falls, because he is not the old school big plodding tight end. He plods a little bit, but you know what? Pretty athletic. He can run.
I guess to your point, doesn't someone, whether it's Kevin O'Connell as he radios the play in, or Kirk Cousins as right, or Kirk Cousins as he's taking in the play call, or TJ Hockenson as he's taking in the play call.
Yes.
Doesn't someone need to say, here's the play with a tweak? We're going to run this play, but instead of TJ running a 3-yard out, it's going to be an 8-yard out or a stick or something, right? So to your point, is there any room for leadership there to step in? Someone, KOC, Kirk, or the tight end saying, okay, yep, cool, ready, break. However, I'm going to run my route a little deeper just to make sure that if it is an option, it's a first down option, right?
Right, and the concept has to come from the coach, right? Like the concept just has to simply be like, you're going to get to the sticks. So, yeah, the whole thing.
Anyways.
Whole game.
All right, let's get to some statements here. It's funny, right before we cracked the mics, I lied to you guys and said, I kind of exhausted all of my takes on this.
It's the Monday after a season-ending loss on a 13-win season with an inexplicable ending play call for the Vikings. I don't fault you one bit. I'm still trying to process what happened.
Well, why don't you start the processing with your first statement here?
7 stages of football grief taking place right here in SLP. All right, my first statement is this. It goes to a little bit what we were talking about, but really expands way beyond that. And it's very, very simple. The Vikings beat the Vikings. The New York Giants did not beat the Vikings. Credit to the Giants. They won the game, and credit to them. They did have a better game plan. But you know what? The Vikings had every opportunity to combat that defensively during the week because they knew the Giants didn't surprise you one iota. They didn't unveil a bag of tricks. Daniel Jones ran. Barkley was good. The passing game was exactly what it was, essentially Christmas Eve 3 weeks ago here. Offensively, the Vikings' bread and butter, which we knew would run out at some point, but it was my hope it would not come to pass yesterday or perhaps in the playoffs. But the Vikings' bread and butter was fourth quarter comebacks. Like that last drive, those last 2 drives were, if you had told me a couple of years ago, that's going to be it, I'd be like, Vikings are dead. This year, I'm like, bring it on. I kept saying they're going to win. So to be very, very clear here, and I think this is my disappointment, the Vikings beat the Vikings. This was a self-inflicted wounds defeat. This was a lack of preparation, lack of good decisions. This was on you. And I'm not trying to say that the Giants suck, but the Giants aren't that great. And defensively, the Giants aren't good either. You had every opportunity to basically you received all the ingredients, especially at the end, that you had cooked with all year long. And you were a Michelin restaurant. You were winning James Beards awards left and right. And with those same ingredients, you choked. You beat yourself.
Beard Award. What is the
You don't know what
James Beard Award?
What?
James
I don't know
Beard
what that
Award is
is.
a very prestigious award.
You've never heard of the James Beard Award for
No,
top
I have
chefs?
Okay. Gotcha.
Oh man, all these
Michelin
restaurants you
restaurants?
go to, dude, all these amazing
Now,
restaurants.
we
You're
don't
big
have
like
Michelin
you're
here.
a big foodie, man.
But
Yeah, I love food. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's on the now that I got time on my hands, I'll go look at these James Beard Award winners and I'll give you a pie chart of all
Michelin
my
restaurants.
favorite ones. Pecking order of my favorite James Beard Awards. I like it. My first statement after the playoff loss. I'll go with this one. Gut check time for Kevin O'Connell. Gut check time. So on paper, see a rookie head coach, see him get to top 10 offense, you see him win 13 games, think, man, pretty successful season. But man, there are some things to clean up there. There's a lot of self-realization in the mirror that he can look at and say, I accomplished a lot of good things, a lot of things that are very difficult to do for a first-year coach or any head coach in the league. But man, there's a lot of things that I have to be better at. I have to be better at picking the right personnel and right coaches to lead this defense and help lead this offense. His own play calling is obviously has been a little bit suspect at times this season. I think this is actually, despite I am still all in on Kevin O'Connell. This has not changed my opinion on him. But this is a gut check time. I mean, just because he had a really good first year does not mean that's always guaranteed, and I know Kevin O'Connell knows that too. So I think this is kind of a gut check time for Kevin O'Connell as he goes into his first offseason as a Vikings head coach.
Yeah, the biggest thing now is you're probably not going to go 11-0, or if you want to count the playoffs, 11-1 in one-score games. So how do you plan for that regression? How do you plan from a staff standpoint, roster construction? Because it's not going to be a linear progression from 13 wins. Now we're just going to add a couple pieces and go win 15 games. Like there's going to be a ton of turnover on defense. Can you somehow continue on with this competitive rebuild? Because you need to get younger across the board defensively.
Right.
You know, you're probably going to need another number 2 wide receiver, which I will address here in a second. Is it even possible, like from a KOC Kwesi perspective, to do a competitive rebuild? Is an oxymoron.
Correct.
You're
Sounds
either
good.
right. If you're gonna rebuild, commit to it like the Bears did.
Right.
If you're gonna be competitive, commit to it like the Rams did. Right. Go trade a bunch of picks and stock up on players to fortify the now. And they kind of picked the middle of the road, and record-wise, it worked out well because they played a home playoff game as a 13-win team. But how do they now go forward, knowing that there's going to be some regression and turnover? That's going to be tough.
And what did you learn too? Like, I mean, I think for coming in after Zimmer, O'Connell did some great things. Like he gained the players' trust. He was definitely a guy that they could talk to. You know, JJ found his office. I didn't even know where Mike's office was. But all that being said, you know, I feel like there were some things that he probably is going to need to pull back on. I mean, there's going to be some guys he's going to have to just flat out cut now, and they're going to be, you know, big names here. So, like, what did he learn from there? And then my second thing is with the coaching staff. What did he learn about trust? Because clearly trusting Easy Ed to do the job was a massive mistake. So, like, how did you delegate your time, and how might you tweak that? Because as O'Connell said in the post-game presser on Sunday, I'm responsible for all phases here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an offensive guy, but I can't just be like, well, I delegated that Wilson. I mean, that's going to catch up with you at some point. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that he's going to have to at least examine, and probably the fair word is tweak. I wouldn't say he's going to change as a person, but it gets more difficult.
one of the things that's sort of frustrating is as fun as this season was, and it was one of the most, I've been consciously remembering and watching Vikings football since like 1990. This is on the Mount Rushmore of fun, memorable seasons for me. 98's on that Mount Rushmore, 09's on that Mount Rushmore, maybe 2017. It was a super fun season. But like most Vikings pop-up seasons, nothing feels sustainable. I'm trying to remember, when's the last time you felt like
the same thing?
I know. Gee, she's just going
That's
crazy.
okay. I got 2 dogs here, man. They got mad before.
She's still unhappy about that 4th down play design, quite frankly.
Why wouldn't she be?
Why would you? Right of the sticks. Hey, right of the sticks.
Right of the sticks, dummy. Kirk Cousins.
But when's the last time the Vikings had a good playoff season or whatever it may be, and you thought, boy, this is the start of a 5-year window?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The 2017,
100%.
They didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be after that season was over, right? 2009, you kind of knew, Brett Favre's going to be 40 years old. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be after that season. So, I don't know, man.
2018, sadly, was like supposed to be the start, right? Like Kirk Cousins is here now. This defense is still very good. So, yeah.
All right, next statement here. Adam Thielen might have played his last down as a Minnesota Viking. I take you to Instagram, where Adam Thielen's wife posted this on her Instagram stories yesterday. It's a photo of her and Adam standing inside US Bank Stadium. And in the caption, it says, just like that, the season and our time here in Minnesota might be at an end. Super proud of your attitude this season and always fighting. What do you make of that?
Interesting. So, okay. Let's read between the lines of this. All right. Let's break this down. Let's parse this apart. I had not seen the entire statement from her. That's really intriguing. So, first of all, it means that you being rightfully so I'm not defending him at all, but rightfully so, relegated to really more of the 3 role was difficult behind the scenes, right?
Yep.
Super proud of you.
Right. Your attitude. This is a very, very strategic message by Mrs. Thielen here.
It is.
Every single word of this is strategic.
Which I sort of, which I actually like. So basically what would happen was, he'd be in the locker room for the most part, gregarious, uplifting, get home, walk in the door, shut the door. Honey, how was your day? Not very effing good. Not real happy with what's going on here. My only question, so off of that, here's my question because it's open for interpretation, definitely. Is she saying that this might be the end because she knows the end is near for him, which would be a very weird thing for a wife in this position to say? Or is she basically saying, if this is how you're going to deploy my husband, he wants out? And so it might be the end of our time here, but I still think he can be super productive, which I would quarrel with, but that's his wife. So she's not going to think like Judd would think.
I love that this is it's a 2-sentence blurb on Instagram stories that says a novel's worth of things. And I think you're onto something here. So just like that, the season and our time here in Minnesota might be at an end. Super proud of your attitude this season and always fighting. I think you nailed it. I bet there's been a lot of closed door conversations, sort of frustration, right? And I don't know, because he's not the same player he was. He's also not being utilized in the way that maybe he's accustomed to, in part because he's not the same player that he was. Does he feel slighted because of the lack of usage and the numbers being down, Kirk not finding him, whatever it may be? Does he feel, is it self-awareness? I'm just not the same guy. Right. When he say our time here in Minnesota might come to an end, well, they live in Minnesota. Their families are from Minnesota. I mean, he's literally spent his whole life in Minnesota. They're not just going to I don't think, up and move away from family. So he would be, to me, I interpret this as, I'm still going to play in the NFL, but clearly there's a good chance it might not be in Minnesota based on everything that happened this season.
Right.
That's my interpretation.
And are they sort of saying if he's going to now be the third option, he does not want to stay here?
Dude, it's juicy.
Like,
Now,
that's super intriguing. I don't know, but it's really, really interesting.
no matter what here, let me pull up. I think if they were to do something before June 1st, they would just have to eat almost all of his cap for 2020. Now, if it's like a post June 1st designation, a trade or a cut, they still have to eat some money because of the extension they signed him to, but it gets a little bit easier to swallow.
Now, he could agree to restructure again, correct? And then if he restructures again, bring the money down a little bit, create a situation. I mean, but perhaps he's decided, I don't,
God.
You know what? If that's how I'm going to be used, I don't want to play here.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and all of this that we just did with Thielen and what will happen, what won't happen, we could literally, and we will, on Purple Daily and Mackie and Judd in the coming days, you could play this game with about 6 or 7 different veteran players, right? What would it cost to keep, get rid of? How do you free up cap space? How problematic is their age? Where are they at performance-wise, et cetera? So,
Yeah.
All right, Judd, back to you. Statements.
My next statement, let's recognize greatness before it's done. And I know that the end is disappointing, and I know that there have been a ton of things to very interestingly parse apart from the game on Sunday, but let's recognize the greatness of the season of Justin Jefferson. This is one of, you know what, we are in could I say this, that we are in a pocket of the glory days in sports in this town, not with championships, but with certain players. Justin Jefferson, a Viking. The Ant's pretty, you know what? Ant works his ass off, pretty damn talented, and I think he is still ascending. Kirill Kaprizov with the Wild, absolutely fantastic. But the year that Justin Jefferson put together, the catches that he made, and to O'Connell's credit across the board, so not on Sunday necessarily, but the way that O'Connell and Kirk found ways to get the ball to him.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson's greatness in 2022 should at least be recognized, not forgotten. And I mean, if the MVP was a normal, not quarterback award, he is in the discussion big time. This is one of the great seasons that we have ever seen from a wide receiver, period. And that is one of the most important positions now in football. So let's not forget the season that Justin Jefferson had.
Yeah, and something to account for too. I mean, as he goes, the Vikings kind of go, right? 2 of the last 3 games, he had kind of 3 fairly dud games relative to what you're used to with him to end the season. You give Green Bay, after getting torched by him in week 1, a second chance at him, and they throw the kitchen sink, right? Jair Alexander and bracket and safety rolling. We learned our lesson the first time. Not going to happen the second time. And it worked. And then you fast forward to the wild card round. The Giants, 12 catches the first time those 2 teams met. They just got torched by him and TJ Hockenson. And they said, all right, we can live with some of the TJ Hockenson stuff because we got to pick our poison. And it ain't going to be Justin Jefferson. And he still caught a bunch of passes, but he didn't have the game that he had. So you give these teams a second crack, and they were like, we're literally going to put 3 dudes on him for a majority of the entire game. And that's kind of how you shut the Vikings down.
But this is why it is so imperative that you get a running mate for JJ. Because think about this. Think about if Osborne were a true 2 or this was Thielen circa 2018.
Yeah.
Think about that player. That guy yesterday would have went off. You win that game by 14 points with a number 2 who is a legit threat.
Yep. Well, good. Old Macadac has a list of deep threat college draft picks that the Vikings could potentially look at coming up sometime soon on Purple Daily. Okay, back to Dex. Statements Monday here on Mackie and Judd.
Ooh, I'm actually going to take Judd's statement and morph it into a different way. The Vikings are wasting Justin Jefferson. They're wasting the contract and the tenure of Justin Jefferson. So next year, he'll still be under a very relatively cap-friendly deal. I think he'll only make like $4 or $5 million. And he'll also have the 5th-year option picked up this spring inevitably, too.
Yep.
Last year, 5th-year option wide receivers who made at least 2 Pro Bowlers. So there's a lot that goes into the stew of the 5th-year option with the cap hit. That was $16 million for the 5th-year option for wide receivers who got their 5th-year option picked up from the 2019 class. So you're probably going to look at 2024 as a season that's going to be in that similar range. Then you're going to have to pay him. Then he's going to have a big contract next to him. You basically wasted 3 really prime years of Justin Jefferson with 0 playoff wins. I love Justin Jefferson. I'm on board to pay Justin Jefferson pretty much almost whatever he wants to a degree. But you wasted also a historically great wide receiver and a great season by him. And it's really unfortunate because it's going to be really difficult to build out the rest of this roster too, not just including Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, also, if they have to take a step back in some way next year, like at some point to make his contract work, because I think they should sign him to an extension, and it should be for probably $30 million a year, right? Isn't that what Tyreek Hill's getting? He's going to get paid more than some quarterbacks. You're going to have to then go find the cheap rookie scale contract quarterback to go along with it. Does he balk at that at some point? Does he say, well, I mean, I've kind of gotten used to Kirk Cousins, and he's a professional quarterback that can get me the ball 100+ times a year? Does it make him hesitate? I don't know.
But I think it works out because right now you can sign him or at least approach him about the extension, which my guess is it's going to get signed this summer. And so Jefferson's going to be aware of the fact that Cousins almost certainly is going to be back in 2023. Jefferson's new contract wouldn't kick in, I don't think, until 2025. And so, like, at that point in time, I think even Jefferson is going to know that he's going to have a new quarterback by that time. So I actually think the timing of this from an explaining how you're doing it is going to work. But this is where the pressure to what we talked about on Ventline, you guys, goes back to O'Connell. This is where you have to find a quarterback that you can develop, that's with a rookie contract. Like that is, I really think, the most important thing of Kevin O'Connell's tenure. If it's 5 years, if it's 10 years, if it's 15 years, the most important thing is going to be, did he find that quarterback to replace Kirk?
Yeah. Be interesting. I'll give you one on Kirk here real quick. So 5 years into the Kirk Cousins signing and experiment, ultimately, it's been a huge fail. He was signed 5 years ago to be the final piece to a Super Bowl championship. Let's not lose sight of what they did and how everyone felt. Remember, because the Vikings they went to the NFC Championship game. They got beat. The offense came out, struck first early, but then Case Keenum got a little squirrely through I think it was a pick 6, and then he became a free agent. And the organization, I think rightfully so, said, thank you, Case. Great magic carpet ride, but we need to find a professional to come in here, a guy with a track record to take us to the next level, sustained success, Super Bowl contendership for multiple years. Well, in 5 years, they have one playoff win. One playoff win.
Yeah.
And only 2 playoff appearances in those 5 years. And I'm not sitting here just like blaming Kirk exclusively, but I think if you zoom out and you just look at roster construction, it's really hard in the NFL when you're paying a good but not great, a good but not elite quarterback that much money and that big of percentage of your cap. Because, today, rightfully so, one of the biggest complaints is, why is the defense so terrible? Even going back to Mike Zimmer's last couple years. Well, it's partially terrible because they've whiffed on a ton of defensive players in the draft. They haven't drafted a difference-making defensive player really since about 2015. So the draft across multiple front offices has been a failure in finding young talent. But they also have fewer resources to go out in free agency and sign a big-time edge rusher. I mean, how many times have we sat here in March of 2019, 2021, Vikings are looking at these defensive players, these edge rushers, cornerbacks, and they can't afford them because they never have any cap space, because they've tied it up not only in Kirk Cousins, but they've also tied it up in Dalvin Cook. They've tied it up in Harrison Smith, linebacker, safety, Adam Thielen. So, I think if you would have asked people 5 years ago, all right, Kirk Cousins is coming to town, you're going to get at least a 5-year window with him in his prime. And they're only going to have one playoff victory over that stretch, coming off of what you experienced in 2017. What would your reaction have been? Probably would have said, what?
Oh, God, it'd be a yes. It'd be It would basically, in fact, if you had told me that, I would say you're crazy because Kirk is not here by that point. So like if you told me in 18 and 5 years, it's going to be 1 playoff win, 2 playoff appearances, I would say there is no way Kirk Cousins is still the quarterback of this team. Because he was brought here for basically it was a 3-year contract. It was a 3-hour tour. It was Gilligan's Island. You were just supposed to be at 3 years real quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
By the way, this is from Purple Daily, but I'm getting this response right now. So I on Purple Daily bonus episode, we went over 10, turned out to be 11 potential defensive coordinator replacements. Fred Donatel. And one of them is Giro Evero. He's a hot up-and-coming, he's been a coordinator with the Broncos and whatnot. And Alex Boone, our guy, played in San Francisco when he was in San Francisco. So let's hit Booney up and see, what does he think of Evero? And Boone just texted a question mark and laughing emojis. Like, I don't think he remembers because Boone was on the offensive side of the ball and Evero was on the defensive side of the ball. Like, who's that? So we'll see if he does a Google search and
so much for our player insider.
Like, who is that guy?
Who?
I don't know.
I'll
$10
$10
it to him.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
All right, let's make one more trip around the room here, presented by our friends at Finch Home Solutions, Judd, before you get to your next statement.
Yes, and this gives me an opportunity to talk about 2 things that are important. Fun. We need fun and safety. Finch Home Solutions combines both the fun. Well, let's just say that you're going to get Dex's favorite, a hot tub installed, and you need the wiring done, right? Finch Home Solutions can come to your home and take care of that. But safety, also important. It's that time of year. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. You need to have those working to keep your family safe. Guess what? Finch Home Solutions can take care of that as well, because it only takes 1 call to Finch to get any electrical issues, any in your home solved. And this is the time of year, again, where you want to make sure that everything is working properly. Finch can make sure that things are, and they have same-day and emergency services available to help at any hour. Finch is also offering a free home safety inspection to all of our listeners. In fact, they're going to be at my house tomorrow checking on about 3 different things that, guess what, Sports Dad can't do. Be sure to tell them that you heard about Finch on SKOR North, because there are special deals for you. Visit finchhomesolutions.com or call them 612-357-2604. finchhomesolutions.com for both fun and making sure that your home and your family is safe.
All right. One more lap of statements here, Judd.
All right, my last statement is this. More wheeling and dealing. 2 of the teams that were in the playoffs were partially there because of in-season trades, which used to never happen. And then the league moved the deadline back, and it facilitated some moves. And now there's talk about, I believe that they're going to discuss this at their meetings in March, about moving it back more. And I say, do it. TJ Hockenson. The Vikings do not win 13 games without him.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great trade. I still don't get why Detroit did it, but that's not the point. The point is, it basically was a baseball-like trade that took a team that was good and improved it. But TJ Hockenson is not the best trade deadline deal, because that was San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey has been an absolute stud, playing on a bad Carolina team that was going nowhere, was no fun to watch. McCaffrey in San Fran has been phenomenal, and that team is great. And guess what? It's partially because of a trade. This baseball idea of creating more trades at the deadline, I absolutely love. Find more ways. It benefits bad teams, and it allows good players to get on good teams to make it more fun to watch. Bravo, National Football League.
Yeah, dude, that was a good trade. It's a good trade. He's young, he's emerging into his prime, and he's going to be a huge target for the next handful of years. And Maya Mackey fully agrees.
Loves the trade.
Absolutely. Listen to her.
Sort of a tight end,
Yeah.
right?
All right, Dex, what's your next statement?
All right, my last statement, I will go with this one. Will it be this good again next season? So, obviously, when you go 13-4, that's pretty awesome, right? And it was incredibly, heart-wrenching at some points, because you didn't know if they were going to win or they were going to lose, but they were these fourth-quarter comeback kids, and it was great. And you wrapped up the division super early in the year. You got able to host a playoff game for the first time in 5 years. It was all great. what's it going to be like next year? And even if there's a record regression, can you still win the division? Can you still be set up to host another playoff game or two? I'm trying to look ahead at next year and also still trying to appreciate what happened this season. But now I'm way ahead of myself, and I'm already looking at 2023 and thinking, how can it be this good again next season? And if there's things that regress from a record standpoint, but it still can look this good and feel this good, then I'm all in. But I do think trying to figure out where this team is at next season is going to be a fascinating discussion.
It really is, man. God, there's so many. And then the wild card here is it kind of felt last year like ownership set some parameters. Hey, we're not going to blow this thing up. We're going to keep all these veterans. We want to see how you guys do just running this thing back largely with a couple little tweaks here and there. And they got their answer. A bunch more wins in the regular season, which was great, and just some more consistency in the fourth quarter. And I think you saw some heart that the previous teams maybe didn't exhibit, but you saw the same one-and-done ending that you're used to as an organization, or quick exit. They've had, win the first round, lose in the second round as well. How do you react to that? Do you try, okay, let's add a couple more pieces and run it back, or do you let the football people that you hired make some tough decisions?
How often have the Wilfs allowed that? It doesn't feel like much. Like they love the sugar high of quick success, but they don't have the patience, it feels like, to allow it to go the course, if that makes sense.
Is there any way, this is probably a full episode
discussion
at some point, is there any way to be a Super Bowl contender in the next 5 to 6 years without fully rebuilding? That's the question.
Your drafts would have to be outstanding, but you might not be in position to draft outstanding players.
Yeah. I'm going to end on a positive for Kirk. I just saw the PFF grades from this game yesterday came across. My last statement is Kirk Cousins was excellent against the Giants blitz yesterday.
Yeah.
He knew it was coming. They actually scaled back. So they blitz on the season like 40 to 45% of passes. So their counter strategy, because Kirk carved up their blitz last time too. So their strategy was, we're only going to blitz half that amount. They blitzed about 23%, which actually on the plays where he wasn't blitzed, he only averaged 4.9 yards per attempt. So he kind of struggled. It was a lot of, when they dropped more guys back into coverage, he went underneath a lot more often.
Yep.
But when he was blitzed, he was 8 for 9 for 126 yards, 14 yards per attempt.
Yep.
In that game. But the Giants said, let's throw him off. He's going to think we're blitzing more, so he's going to see some ghosts. And on the plays where we aren't blitzing, maybe he'll get rid of the ball quicker into more coverage. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. The sports dad grades will not be kind to the coach and DC. The Giants did.
When do this? What website can we find the sports dad grades on? Is that sportsdadgrades.com or what?
Sportsdadgrades.com, just starting up, just brand new.
Is it a subscription or is it free?
It's a subscription. It's a subscription where I journal and give grades out.
Okay. Yesterday, when Judd sent me the video of Patrick Royce and our buddy Kevin Seifert, talking in the press box, Judd just sends it to me and goes, "You can put this on the site." And I'm like, the site. I think he means Twitter. I think he means socials, but like the site.
What did you mean by put it on the site? Put it on
Twitter.
the site.
Twitter.
I was.
I can. There's a lot of decoding things with. Yeah.
I'm not
put it on the site.
I'm not that hard to decode, to be honest.
True.
Like it's not that hard to figure out. Like Don said, I mean, I'm a pretty simple dude, but that thing killed. People were very excited to see Patrick at the game.
Yeah. Good for him. He's also the kryptonite. Every time he shows up for a playoff game, just something terrible goes wrong.
14,000 views on Twitter of Pat Royce and Kevin Seifert.
I love how Seifert had no idea what he was being roped into. He just smiled for the first 5 seconds because he thought you were taking a picture. Did you not communicate what was happening?
Well, I thought he knew because I was talking to Pat and filming.
What's going on the site?
And then he's like, Kevin, get down here. And so I thought that Kevin could tell, but I did not communicate it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I love Kevin. So no, I'll fall on all grenades. Okay.
By the way, we do have for you to cope here. We do have brand new Before I Die swag on the site. SKORNorth.com/shop. SKORNorth.com/shop. And I think you'll like this one. It'll help you cope. It essentially takes us through 60 years of Vikings football. We just want one before we die.
But it's hopeful, right? Because it
is
takes you
hopeful.
through, but it's hopeful about next season.
Correct. Exactly. So check that out. And we got 2 episodes of Purple Daily today on this Monday, plus a vent line from yesterday, a therapy session, and plenty more looking ahead out on the horizon. What can the Vikings do to shake things up and make things better going forward? Those are the conversations we will be having across SKOR North here. Purple Daily, Mackie and Judd. Thanks for hanging out with us all season long. And now we enter off-season reckless speculation, baby. The wheelhouse, I think, of this show. See you guys tomorrow.